U.S. projected President-elect Joe Biden is expressing frustration about U.S. President Donald Trump's refusal to cooperate on the White House transition process. AP's Sagar Magani has more.
Among other things, the Trump administration is not sharing its coronavirus vaccine distribution plans. Biden says his team needs them.
More people may die if we don't coordinate.
After remarks focused on repairing the nation's economy, Biden told reporters a key step is getting a vaccine to all Americans, a massive undertaking.
If we have to wait until January 20th to start that planning, it puts us behind over a month and a half.
He says a vaccine is of little use until people are actually vaccinated. Sagar Magani, Washington.
U.S. biotech firm Moderna on Monday announced its experimental vaccine against COVID-19 is almost 95% effective, marking a second major breakthrough in the quest to end the pandemic. AP's Mike Hempen has more.
Moderna says preliminary data from an ongoing study show its vaccine is nearly 95% effective. Last week, Pfizer announced its own COVID-19 vaccine appeared similarly effective. Both companies are now on track to seek permission within weeks for emergency use in the U.S. Virus cases in the country topped 11 million over the weekend. Moderna President Dr. Stephen Hoge says having similar results from two different companies is most reassuring. Hoge says it's going to require many vaccines to meet global demand. I'm Mike Hempen.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization's chief scientist says they find the news about the Moderna vaccine to be encouraging.
It appears that the vaccine has a protective efficacy of over 90%. It's about 94%. Of course, we need to wait and see what the final efficacy and the safety profile of this vaccine will be.
She says she remains optimistic the WHO will be able to work with many manufacturers to have a wide selection of vaccines as part of its global distribution plan. A new FBI report says hate crimes last year reached the highest level in more than a decade. AP's Ed Donahue has more.
Hate-motivated killings in 2019 reached the highest number since the FBI started keeping records in the 90s. 51 people died, including 22 killed in a shooting targeting Mexicans at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. The report shows an increase in religion-based hate crimes, as well as anti-Hispanic hate crimes. Crimes based on a person's sexual orientation stayed relatively stable. Crimes against African Americans dropped slightly. Critics have long warned the data may be incomplete. Some police departments don't submit hate crime information to the FBI. Ed Donahue, Washington.
The UN Refugee Agency says Ethiopia's growing conflict has resulted in more than 20,000 refugees from the Tigray region fleeing into Sudan as fighting spills beyond Ethiopia's borders. AP's Charles De Ledesma reports.
The UNHCR says more than 5,000 refugees arrived in Sudanese border provinces on Sunday, the highest single-day number since the start of the conflict in Tigray. Most of the refugees are children and women who've walked long distances, arriving exhausted, hungry and thirsty. A regional governor says the response by UN agencies and the international community is slow compared to the pace of refugees arriving in the province. The agency says it's mobilizing resources to provide life-saving assistance services to the new arrivals. I'm Charles De Ledesma.
European Union diplomats warned Britain Monday time was fast running out for a Brexit deal and that it may already be too late to ratify one, as negotiators in Brussels began a last-ditch attempt to avoid a tumultuous exit at the end of December. Almost 5 years since the Brexit referendum campaign began, Britain and the EU have still not worked out how nearly $1 billion in trade per year will operate once Britain leaves a status quo transition arrangement December 31st. Britain, which left the EU in January, called on the EU to show more realism if there was to be more progress in coming days.